So Dr. Lauren Hyde is next on the agenda, and it's my treat to get to introduce you. So Lauren Hyde studied at Colorado State University, got her Ph.D. there, and she's a native of Kansas, right? Oh, born in Illinois, then Kansas.
Yeah, lived here.
Okay, so sort of native.
Yeah.
Grew up here.
Till 71.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, but anyway, so Dr. Hyde studied at Colorado State. She worked for the North American Limousine Foundation for a number of years and then joined us at the ASA 10 years ago.
9
years ago.
Yep, 9 years this September.
I don't have a biography.
Yeah, Jackie, you really should have done your homework, I think. Yeah.
But I will say, Lauren's one of my favorite people on the planet. She's just lovely to be around. If you haven't interacted with her much, I suggest you grab a plate and sit next to her at lunch. She will not be a stranger long. She's not only the lead geneticist for the ASA, but she's got a number of interesting hobbies, like figure skating and swimming. Yeah, can you do a little pirouette for us?
Yeah, I can maybe do like a waltz jump for you.
And she just does fun things with her time. A couple years ago, she and her brother decided they're going to go see a baseball stadium in every Major League Baseball stadium across country. And she and her brother have been doing these trips and checking out different baseball games. And so she's got a lot of interests. And like I said, if you haven't talked to her much, grab a plate, eat beside her. You'll laugh and learn some new things. So Lauren's going to give us a brief update on what we've done in the last year plus few months, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A with the entire science team that's physically here. So Lauren.
Okay, well, thank you, Jackie. That was really nice stuff that you said about me. It's not all true, but anyway. So let me make sure that this is on. And it appears to be. Okay, so who of you can tell me what happened on May 5th of 2018? Well, I know you can, Jackie, but any members? Well, let's see, this isn't really wanting to, okay, there it goes. Yes, we blasted off with Bolt. Okay, do I have to point this in a certain direction? I guess so. Okay, so ASA was the first IGS partner to publish a full suite of EPDs using the new Bolt software, okay? And, that was just a really big deal for our association. I think everyone was very pleased because, it just seemed like everyone wanted it, about 3 years ago. But so finally we're up and running, oops, I keep hitting this too much. But even though we blasted off, we still have work to do. We're not just sitting on our butts at the ASA office. We actually do lots of stuff. So I'm going to tell you what we've done to Bolt from May 5th, 2018 until now, and then even beyond what we're going to be doing. Okay, so in June 2018, we already had the need for getting reports to the IGS partners. So we developed several different audit type reports. We developed quality control reports for the genomic data. And then at the end of June, the American Shorthorn Association, who is also chomping at the bit to get these Bolt EPDs, they released their first version. Okay, so then in July, we still had a lot of other partners that wanted to join in. So we set up some beta systems for them. We currently run the evaluation on 2 separate servers. So we had an additional 2 servers that we ran parallel runs with their data, and then they could check it. And once they felt comfortable with it, then they would release their EPDs based on the beta data. And we also started delivering some quality control reports to the IGS partners through something that we call the genomic pipeline, which is just a way for ASA and all the other breed associations, and then all the DNA companies to be hooked up together via the internet, okay? So then a year ago in August, several associations came on board. We also had a need to add ET calves to our data set. We have several breed associations who that's very important to them. They do a lot of ET work, thinking Limousin in particular. And we also, when the Limousin folks came on board, we also saw there were a lot of duplicate ID issues, which we have since fixed. And we also started collecting feed intake and heifer pregnancy data. Not feed intake heifer pregnancy data, but feed intake and heifer pregnancy data from all the different associations. Started assembling that. So in September, Canadian Shorthorn came on board, and we also, well, Jackie initiated having IGS Partner Calls every month where we would discuss updates to the evaluation, any concerns they had, what their needs were, things like that. We still do it. It's a great forum for them. I think they appreciate it. And, you know, we are also very appreciative knowing what their concerns and stuff are. So, yeah, so we hold those every month. We have one next week, in fact. In October, a bunch of things happened. Red Angus finally came on board, and we added over 20,000 external EPDs to the evaluation from the American Angus Association. That's how we use the external EPDs on the Angus animals as a way to kind of get their performance data because we don't have access to their actual performance records, so we do use external EPDs in the evaluation using a special method to kind of get evaluation or get information on those animals. And let's see, what else do? We did some other, we developed a web-based interface for where the association partners could do their own bull lookups. I was getting swamped with that, you know, from all the other different associations. You know, every day it would be, you know, oh, can you look up this bull? Can you look up that bull? And it just got kind of time-consuming, so we developed a web-based app for that. And they can also look at genomic QC reports. And what else do we do? This was a cool thing. We adjusted the evaluation system for the Carcass evaluations. We do run two separate Carcass evaluations. We have one with carcass weight and ribeye area, and then another one for fat and marbling. But we added, we realized that animals that didn't have carcass or ultrasound data in yet, but they had genomic information. We're talking about mostly like young calves here who hadn't reached their yearling time yet. We were realizing that they weren't being included, but what's so good about a genotype if we're not using it on those really young animals? So we did adjust that. So I think that made a lot of people happy. Okay, and then in November, what do we do here? Jordan Bowman implemented a Java-based script to compute breed composition, which is a very important part of the evaluation, you know, given that we're multi-breed. And it's a lot faster than what we were doing before. And, you know, and he developed a really slick program on that. We also started a research project with CSU to develop a days to finish EPD. I'll talk a little bit about that later. And we initiated something called Work Order 1, which is just a conglomeration of things. The idea of it is to remove birth weights that have the potential to be like eyeballed, or maybe even, you know, they're fraudulent. Not all the time, but usually it's just, you know, maybe people just got kind of lazy and said, oh, they all weighed 70 pounds in this group. Okay, so we're looking to remove those kind of things. You know, there's different ways to look at it based on biological probability of a certain amount of variation in a group and other things like that. I can't tell you everything because you might cheat, okay? So, let's see, we also are looking at, with this work order 1, we also are looking at separating birth contemporary groups between heifers and then the more mature cows, which kind of makes sense, you know, because, you know, your 2-year-old heifers tend to have different treatment, you know, maybe keep them separately, you know, you watch them more, you breed them at a different time, and so forth. We're also looking at including heterogeneous variances for weaning weight. That's a big word, but it just means that we're looking at different like heritabilities and genetic correlations based on sex between the animals. That's just because they, you know, males and females tend to grow differently. And we are looking at setting the genetic correlation between direct and maternal weaning weight, which is actually weaning weight, what you see in milk. We're looking at setting that to 0. Right now we have a negative genetic correlation for that. But we're looking at just eliminating that. There's been different research projects. Some say that there is a moderately negative correlation to a small negative correlation, but then there's also been studies that say it's really nothing. So we're looking at that too. And Madi and Bruce Golden are also, they've also developed a new marker subset to look at based on, you know, since we have more data, they, you know, started looking at different markers to use. And so that's included in work order 1 too. So work order 1's pretty big right now. And then in December, we added trio mating checks to the quality control reports. And that's just basically a trio is like a sire, dam, and calf. We're just making sure that they all mesh, kind of, that their genotypes all mesh. Kind of, you know, that's kind of a smaller thing. But we sure were, your science team was sure glad that this was the first Christmas we didn't have to work long hours, okay? I'll tell you, I've been doing this since, you know, I was in school in '94. This was the best Christmas I've had in 25 years, okay? And it was so good that Wade decided to have a party at one of his VRBO houses, and we actually like partied using all the stuff that the renters left, and but we had a lot of fun. So anyway, so on to this year, we started investigating multibreed imputation and a new imputation software package. I don't know if everyone is familiar with what imputation is, but it's if we don't have a genotype on an animal, but we have genotypes on its relatives, we can use that information to predict what that animal's genotype might be. Okay, so there's 2 different things with the imputation here. We're getting like better, like a crossbreed information to impute those genotypes, as well as a improved software package. In February, it was Valentine's Day, but we also started refining the Zoetis part of the genomic pipeline. You know, we don't have many Zoetis genotypes coming in, and we had to kind of work out some issues with that, so I think that's pretty good. We have other partners who have Zoetis genotypes have more genotypes coming in. So we've been kind of working through with that, but I think that's at a pretty good point now. And we also started receiving our preliminary results on the days to finish research, and we're still looking at that. And we also made several adjustments to the heifer pregnancy data set, because each IGS partner has different information to provide. We were missing certain things that were necessary, such as birth dates, very important. So we were missing that. We had to add those things. Okay, then in March, we started looking at the carcass weight ribeye evaluation. We had several ASA and breeders from other breeds that were concerned about their carcass weight EPDs kind of didn't look very close to their yearling weight EPDs. So we started investigating that. We did finally put that into production, but we're now incorporating more yearling weights and weights on all the contemporaries who have carcass or ultrasound data. We're looking at all their weaning contemporaries, in case they fell out, we're using their weights in the evaluation. And I think people in general are very pleased at what they've been seeing. There are some minor bugs in the online bull lookup tool, nothing big, it was more like formatting issues. Here's where we added birth dates to the heifer pregnancy data set. And we received our first set of health data from Dar Feedlot. I think Lane was the one who secured that. And we did update the software where we house the IGS database. And this Postgres, it's a free software package, so we're saving you money there. We're not buying like Oracle products or anything like that, so. Okay, so April. I know this is kind of tedious, but okay. But we're almost done, okay. April, we started exploring changes to using externals, like to using more externals than what we're accustomed to, meaning that we want to include more like pedigree estimate externals, just so we can give those animals kind of a boost as to where they should be relative to the other Angus in our breed. And we're still working on that. We've had memory issues with that because to bring in all those and, there's just, we had to make some memory adjustments, and we're still like kind of seeing which animals we really need to bring in. Like if we have a pedigree estimate EPD on some of these animals, but we have both their parents, we don't really need that pedigree estimate, okay? So that one's under research right now. And here's what we continue working on, the carcass weight ribeye. We updated the carcass breed differences with data from Meat Animal Research Center. This is done every year when whenever they publish a new breed difference report, or a new crossbreed EPD table. And there was a little tiny bug in the docility evaluation, but that has now been fixed. It didn't really affect many animals at all, I think maybe 1,000 animals. So, in May, Canadian Angus came on board, and we got some external EPDs from the South Devon Association, and we started planning for our IGS Partner meeting, which is going to be held this October in Bozeman. And these meetings, like Fall Focus, we'll probably start planning next year's in about a month. So yeah, so this is going to be a 2-day meeting, and we're going to have a technical discussion forum, where it's just going to be kind of a working meeting as well. And Sheldon started figuring our 5th server, we're gonna, I think, retire our oldest one and then maybe put this one in. I don't know the server stuff, so if you're really interested in that, you can ask Sheldon all about it. And then in June, let's see here, the breed associations wanted a standardized format for submitting pedigree data among the associations. Like, you know that each association has data from several different breeds, so we wanted to make sure, like, this helps with the cross-referencing aspect, so we have that set up, and that's all online. And then we released data to CSU for development of a PAP, EPD Willie. And then on the 30th, we said goodbye to Steve. Okay, Steve has put in long hours here. And, so he decided to retire, okay? But then on July 1st, he came back with a different kind of job. He retired more from the administrative type stuff, and he's just gonna work on the IGS end of things as he feels like. I think now he's watching the Rolling Stones in California, but when he comes back, he might answer some emails and help us out with some IGS things. So we are glad to have Steve still in the mix. He really enjoys working on the IGS portion of it. So in July, we implemented the multi-breed imputation that Madi was working on. And we also installed the new version of FMpute, and we implemented the changes that we made to the Carcass and Ribeye evaluation. And this month, okay, we're at the end, getting towards the end. We added Australian Shorthorn. We had a new subset of Angus externals, brand new ones. We updated everything and put those into the evaluation because we can't just use the same externals, that we had on May 5th, 2018, because they get new EPDs as well, okay? So we have to keep updating those. And then Madi recalculated the progeny equivalence, which is, when you do genomics, I think you've all seen those tables, like, if you get a DNA test on a low accuracy animal, how many progeny does that really, equate to if they had progeny? Okay, you know what I'm talking about. So, okay, we are on a roll, but we are not done with our changes. We're always going to have changes. Okay, software is very dynamic. It's just, you build software, you always are, fixing bugs, you're changing things, you're developing new things, okay? So, so we are still doing stuff with bulk. It's not a done deal, okay? And let's see, so this month, it looks like, probably maybe closer to next month, it looks like South Devon and the Solera Association are probably gonna be joining us, okay? They already, I think they're assembling their beta data right now. I don't know if it's been turned in yet because Steve is listening to the Stones. So, okay. And I'd encourage you to stay for tomorrow's Breed Improvement Committee meeting because we'll talk about a few other new things. We'll talk more in depth about the new progeny equivalent table. And we're also going to talk about a potential partnership between us and Neogen GeneSeq. And let's see, just kind of showing you what's down the road, what we're working on, but still, it's still down the road. As I said, that Lane started collecting health data, but we're working on this in conjunction with the academic community. When you deal with health data, there are lots of questions to ask, Like what kind of data do we really need? And, what kind of measurements do we take, that we can evaluate properly? How do we evaluate it? So it's a very difficult thing. So we're working with academia on that. Okay, days on feed is still being researched. We are getting reports monthly from the CSU team, and we're getting very close to getting a prototype set of numbers to look at. So that one's getting pretty close here. Feed intake, that is being looked at by Ryan Bolt of the Red Angus Association. Ryan is a really good young scientist. He's finishing up his Ph.D. with CSU while he works for Red Angus. And let's see, he has already received the data from all the different associations, and so he's combining it. Everything's in a different format, different types of data from each partner. So he's, combining that and then in the process of summarizing it. Okay, and then heifer pregnancy is being developed by me. And we do have the data combined and summarized. We've developed an initial, a couple of different contemporary group definitions for it. And we're looking at 2 different models. We're going to evaluate it using both a linear and a threshold model and see which one seems to make more sense, okay? And I'm starting to develop the scripts for this. And, when you do these evaluations, there are quite a few scripts involved because you have the data processing scripts that you have to write in order to prep the data. And then there are several different other scripts that you use during the evaluation process, certain stepwise things. So we're looking at probably like 15 different scripts at minimum. So, so these things aren't very trivial. So let's see what I have. Okay, that's it. That's what we've been doing. So we haven't been sitting on our butts, okay? Yeah, so does anyone have any questions on this?
Thank you, Lauren. Well, let's give Lauren a round of applause.
Oh, well, thank you.
And I'm going to hand Wade Schaefer the mic just because I know you'll be on the hot seat too. And we'll pass around some mics for questions. So questions.
So I want to say to Lauren, and what Jackie said is right on the money. Those of you that have had the opportunity to know Lauren will say that, she's one of their favorite people. And I can't really describe why that is, other than to say she's just genuinely Lauren. That's the explanation. And she's done a lot of good things for the American Simmental Association over the years. Worked prior with the North American Limousine Foundation as a geneticist there as well. I think you did the best work with us, Lauren. But anyway,
well, these breeders are.
Lauren is retiring at the end of the year, so we will miss her. And she's telling us it's not the Steve type of retirement. It's a real retirement. So.
Yeah, I'm going skiing that day. The day that I'm done, I'm going skiing. I'm heading to the mountains. I already have it planned. Yeah, I already have my reservations for a room, and yeah.
So anyway, maybe to stir up some discussion, anybody willing to share with us your experience when Bolt first came online? I know there was a lot of change, obviously, and we expected that. And I'm sure anytime there's change like that, there's going to be some conflict. You got Jesse. Would you like to? Jesse, you raised your hand. But I would like to see Jesse's our former chairman, and he's somebody that pays a lot of attention to numbers. So I'm going to ask Jesse to just give me a summary of what his experience was when the new Bolt numbers came along. And this is not staged, he's just impromptu.
Well, it was a Sunday morning. I was up. Everybody else in the house was asleep, so I did what I did. I went and turned on the laptop, logged into ASA's website, and lo and behold, my whole world had turned upside down. So the first thing I did was text Wade Schaefer, knowing he wouldn't be awake, all the way out there in faraway Montana land, and say, what in the heck is going on with the database? Because I didn't know that was happening. So apparently you were awake, because it wasn't too long. I got a text back. He says, oh, we went live with Bolt.
I wasn't sleeping a lot, though.
So I said, Wade, what have you done to us? I mean, the bulls that I bred to AI are all screwed up. Their APIs have dropped $30. Their calving ease went haywire. What am I going to do? I mean, the cows are already pregnant with these. He says, okay, just hold on. It'll change. Don't worry. I said, but it might change for the worst again. Anyway, Wade calmed me down, so I was able to survive, and they're gradually changing as you said they would. So that's basically it. Moment of hysteria, but it got past.
Now, Wade, is this like shortly after this? Didn't you have to go to the hospital?
No.
Like
that's
in August or something?
Story. So, yeah. So what I was wanting to get at with and that was impromptu. I didn't seed anything with Jesse. Numbers change, and when you improve your prediction, in some cases dramatically, we made a quantum leap with the Bolt software. We were able to do things we could not conceive of doing prior to the Bolt software. And so we knew there was going to be big change, and we saw big change. But the change, we have definitive proof, objective proof, that the change actually did a better job of predicting genetic value. We know that. It does that. And, what I always said is, well, if there isn't any change, if you're going to improve something, improve prediction, if there's no change, you obviously haven't done anything. Change is inevitable, and yes, there was some in the early implementation. We certainly had some tweaking to do. There were some things we didn't anticipate, and you saw Lauren put up some of the bugs, she said, in the software, and we found some things, and that was inevitable. We knew that. When you've got 17.5 million animals and you've got this very complex implementation, you're going to have some bugs, even though we tried our level best to have every single bug worked out by the time we rolled the Bolt software out. But we had some issues, but I think for the most part, and I'm not saying that everything is perfect and pristine. I would tell you this, there's probably no genetic evaluation system out there that everything is absolutely pristine. That's just the nature of the business. But we feel we know we have a better prediction than we've had in the past. And you will see tomorrow at our Breed Improvement Committee, because of the fact that you guys have been sending us more DNA and more phenotypes, we have ratcheted up the value of DNA in our evaluation, in some traits dramatically. Dramatic jumps in the value of a piece of DNA. So you will see that tomorrow. Lauren put a teaser out there, but anyway, I'd like to, anybody else want to comment on Donald Brown? You're looking like you need something to do. I want to get you prepped for your panelist discussion. So give me your take, and I can tell you this. Donald Brown, I just diagnosed Donald just this morning. He's got, it's OCNN disorder. Obsessive compulsive number nerd. Nobody looks at numbers more than Donald Brown. I will wake up in the morning and I get a whole pile of emails from Donald with all kinds of files at numbers that Donald had looked at. So I'm curious what Donald.
And they're all in different colors.
Yeah,
too.
He's got them color coded too. but he definitely has that disorder.
Well, I will say, as we look at the last year and a half and the transition to single step in multiple breeds, that in July of 17, Angus had the transition, and some breeders who had been turning in a lot of data said, this looks really good. And those that had been not turning in data, but depending totally on genomics said, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. And so it made sense to performance-minded breeders and made a better evaluation for American Angus. And then Simmental changed, and it didn't see as many changes in the evaluation for Simmental, in the transition to Bolt technology. But in Red Angus, a few months later, significantly more changes. So I find it interesting how in different breeds it's been different. And so I think it's important that we're continuing to have new, improved, and I appreciate all the work you guys are doing to continue to make it better every day.
Thank you. And there's no question it's a work in progress, and that's a way a functioning, live, viable genetic evaluation system is a work in progress. It will never end. I mean, we'll never get to the end. I think there's a sense oftentimes, well, when are you going to be done with that stuff? When are you going to finish? When are you going to wrap that up? It really never ends. We will continue until the point, if you're a geneticist, the goal is to have completely 100% accurate prediction on a young calf. And I can tell you, we maybe will never get there, but we are moving in that direction. That's our goal, and that's out there. And we've made a quantum leap, like I said, with the new software, we have made a quantum leap in that direction. But we'll always, at least in our lifetime, my lifetime for sure, we will be constantly after the Holy Grail.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to say, speaking about that first day that we released it, all of us at the office were like, oh my God, we're going to get the crap storm like what Angus had. Okay, we were all just like, okay, we're getting ready for this. I don't think Wade and I slept, maybe Steve, I don't know. It was just, oh my God, we're going to get hit, we're going to get nasty emails, nasty phone calls, yada, yada. And about 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, called Wade, have you heard anything? Not really. Have you? No. I think maybe I had 3 emails that day. No, they were all valid concerns, and then maybe a few more the next day. But, thank you, folks, for, I think you took it very well. I really appreciate how you treated staff with this change, and because I guess it was pretty nasty over at Angus, and but we didn't have that kind of experience at all with y'all. So
I'd echo that. I really appreciate it. I think for the most part, the interaction we had with members was very constructive. They were inquisitive. They were wanting to know, why did things change, and for the most part, and early on, Lauren had developed a script so we could dig into things and we could tell, what was the animal's genetic component or DNA component? What was the information coming from phenotype? And in general, when you would look at that, it made sense. We could dig into the data, and the data justified the movements that we would see.
And the ones that don't, that's how we find, maybe bugs or where we need to improve things. Too. So, that's, when things don't make sense like that, that's when we start investigating more and trying to see what's at the root of those. So, so all those kind of concerns are, valid concerns too. That's how we found out about the carcass weight ribeye, how we decided to change that a little. Yeah, I know Donald has come up with a few things over, I've been there 9 years, and, Donald's come up with a couple animals that really have, that don't make sense, and then once you look at them, it's like, oh, okay, here's a little bug right here that we have to fix. This even happened with the Cornell software, which was what? That was, boy, 30 years old, that
That
software.
was developed in the 80s.
Yeah, I think it was 30 years old.
Developed, yep.
Yeah. So,
So anybody else want to volunteer? We're getting close to lunch. Where's Jackie?
it is 12.
It is
So
12.
everyone's probably hungry, maybe. Or they're just tired. Because that was kind of boring just doing the timeline. It was kind of a boring presentation. Except
So
the
just to
party that
give you-
Wade threw was good.
I'll give you a little sense going away to lunch. I'll give you a little sense of what this software. So as I said, with the new Bolt software, we could do things that we couldn't even contemplate prior to having that software. And we would go to meetings with other geneticists, and we would talk about these things that needed to be done. And the consensus often was, oh, that can't be done on a big database. You guys have 17, 18 million animals. That can't be done. You just can't do it. And part of the real fly in the ointment and the reason for a need to make this quantum leap is that we started collecting all these DNA samples. All this DNA was coming in, and frankly, the software we had, like Lauren said, that was developed back in the 1980s. That's when it first, the initiation of the Cornell software was back in the 1980s, and obviously over the years there had been upgrades, but it was never made to handle the volume of DNA. I mean, we kind of put it together with Band-Aids, and we were actually blending DNA into the system and making it work, but it really was never geared to do what really needed to be done. And like I said, when we'd outline what needed to be done, it was often the consensus among most was, you just can't do that. It's just too big of a problem with that big of a data set. And so over time, by leveraging Bruce Golden, and Dr. Odie knows Bruce well, he was back at CSU, and he was an old classmate of mine. Bruce Golden can make things happen on a computer that few people can. That's just his genius. He has a genius in that area. And so we leveraged that genius to do things that heretofore just didn't think we could do it. And so to give you an example of what he did, so with the Cornell model that we were using on our servers, if we were going to run a weight trait, say the weight traits, birth weight, weaning weight, yearling weight, it would take us, 50 some hours to make that run?
Yeah, I think it was 4 days maybe.
Yeah, 4 days. It took a long time. He could make that identical run with his new software in about a half an hour. And that speed, I mean, on the surface, it just, what does that mean? So you can do it faster, big deal. Well, that speed allowed us to do things that we wouldn't have been able to do before. We could do things like we could get at actual accuracy. In the past, we've just been estimating accuracy in a way that frankly wasn't very accurate. It tended to inflate accuracy. And with Bolt, we were able to actually zero in on what a geneticist would call true accuracy. And that is something that was, like I was saying, there were things that were just thought to be impossible on a large database. But with the new software, and it's two things. It's the way the software was written, that's one thing, but also we were leveraging these cards, these kids play these games, and they use these gaming cards. And it turns out those gaming cards are really conducive to fast computing. So we have a bunch of computers sitting down in our basement, and they're full of these gaming cards, and they're like $2,500 a card, but they really make things scream. So between the hardware and the new software, like I said, we're able to do things that just were not thought possible.
We walk here.
Anyway, and that was critical. When you're talking about a data size a database the size that we have, and adding genomics, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of DNA samples. Doing that in the manner we're doing it wouldn't be possible without well, frankly, the genius of Bruce. Bruce was able to pull that off. So